We've done an amazing job at running this, what I call it, a psychological propaganda operation against the American homeowner to teach them and to convince them, hey, selling a home is very scary. It's very complicated. It's legally jeopardous. You're going to screw this up. You're going to screw up the pricing. Just default to giving it to a real estate agent. And when I actually started digging into that, I realized that's not the case. Homeowners don't realize how much horsepower they have in this game. They don't realize how much strength that they have. And again, my industry's just done a great job at making us feel disempowered that we don't know how to do this ourselves.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Real Build. I'm your host, Bill Reiman, your broker builder. And today I got another special guest on the show for you. He is the owner of Foolproof FSBO. He is someone who has built a business by going directly against the grain of an industry that hasn't changed in decades. His mission is simple but controversial. Give homeowners the knowledge, confidence, and systems to sell their own homes without getting taken advantage of, without unnecessary commissions, and without relying on an industry that often prioritizes itself over the client. He's built a massive audience by telling the truth about real estate, breaking down deals in plain English, and teaching people how to protect themselves financially. Some people love him, some people hate him. And that usually means he's doing something right. Tim Street, welcome to The Real Build. How you doing, brother?
Bill, that's awesome, man. I tell you, I need to. I wish I could just kind of bottle up what you say and just have it follow me around the house. Because, like I was telling you before, I live with 5 women here in this. My 4 daughters and my wife. So have somebody actually say something kind of cool. My kids think I'm such a dork. So hey, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah,
It's an honor.
we were talking before the show, man, and you even have a girl, dog. You got to
Even
get
the
yourself.
dogs go, bro, I'm so outvoted. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like, whatever. I literally have this office here. I built it just to have a spot. Like nobody comes in here. It's great. I love it.
God bless you, man. My brother actually, he has 2 daughters and a girl dog and his wife, and he stopped after 2 because he was afraid for another third. He's like, I don't want to have to pay for a third wedding too. And
Right.
I was like,
Right.
man, that's 50-50 risk. You got to be willing to
Well,
take.
dude, totally. And I'm on my second marriage too. So you can call me a slow learner. All right.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get into you a little bit, man. I'm excited
Sure.
to have you on. This topic of the real estate industry and you kind of turning that and going against the grain on it too. But let's talk about Tim Street first. Who is Tim Street? A little background on yourself.
Yeah, so primarily my goal in life is just to be a great father and an amazing husband. And I fall short of that probably every day, but I'm always trying to get better. I started out life in Detroit. I joined the Marine Corps right out of high school because there was no way college was in the cards for us, either financially or me academically. I hated the idea of school. It felt like prison to me. I could not wait to get out and do my own thing. So funny enough to join the Marine Corps, because talk about a place where you shouldn't go if you have a problem with authority. So I did 5 years there, became a federal air marshal right after that, which I thought was going to be really exciting and cool. And it was one of the most boring jobs you could possibly imagine, staring at the back of a seat in front of you with no action. So that's when my friends got me involved in their startups. I had these great friends doing these small tech startups, and I was a natural at the sales aspect of it. And boy, did it take off. It was fantastic. And after doing that for way too many years, living out of a suitcase, I wanted to get it into something a little bit more, well, what I thought would be calm in your audience. People who know better are going to laugh their butts off at me for my naivety. I decided I was going to get in real estate investing. Golly, what a show that was. So I thought it was going to be calm, and boy, some of the most stressful moments of my life have been in that game. But one of my biggest frustrations in getting into that game was I had to work with real estate agents, and
Mm.
they frustrated me so bad that I actually became one. So again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but that's what I did, and turned out to be an excellent life hack. I was able to get myself into the deals better. I was able to negotiate with my own voice and not have to do it through an intermediary. And best of all, I kept 100% of the equity. So it was just a win all around, and that's kind of what led me here. I did real estate investing. I started helping people buy and sell their homes, but after a while, I had to admit to myself that the incentives that I had as a real estate agent weren't always 100% aligned with who I was serving. And that is that's not a great place to be in, whether spiritually, personally, how you look at yourself in the mirror. And so I decided instead of even fighting that path every day for the rest of my life, I wash my hands of it. I put my system out there for free and I just give it away to homeowners. And like you said, a lot of agents hate me, but the good ones, the pros, they love what I'm doing. So,
I love it, man. First off, thank you for your service too.
oh gosh.
I come from a family of Marines, so
Well, right on. Well, hey,
yeah.
thanks for paying the bills, brother. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So my dad was a Vietnam veteran. My grandpa was in World War II.
Golly.
I didn't go because my dad didn't want me to and didn't let me after what he went through in Vietnam. But I was close in the next chapter of Marines. So I highly support you and know what you went through too because I hear it from my dad. So and on your real estate side, man, like you said real estate agents frustrated you so much you became one. And I can relate to you in a lot of ways. I come from the building world, and realtors, not all of them, there's a lot of great ones, but there's a lot of bad in the industry. And I actually tell people this. I got my broker's license because I didn't want a realtor tag behind my name.
There you go.
Because they drive me that nuts. There's a lot of greed in the industry. There's a lot of selfishness in the industry, and it's a lot of more about themselves than the client. And once again, those listening, it's not every realtor because I deal with a lot of great ones that are out there that actually care. But I was having this discussion actually with one of my clients the other day, and she said she was approached by her past realtor, and the realtor kept kind of hounding her to go get lunch, and she wouldn't do it because she just had this weird suspicion. Long story short, it was about a house next door, a property next door, and she's like, "What do you think the realtor goes to the client? What do you think the property is worth?" And she goes, "I don't know if it was for it's let's say I think it's priced at like 5 million, right?" And
Mm.
she's like, "Well, if it was more like four, we'd probably buy it." She goes, "All right, I'll write up an offer." And yeah, just like that to
Wow.
this past client of mine who we built a house, and she's like, "No, you won't."
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just like that's the type of greed. And then she was telling me after that, she's just like, it just put a bad taste in my mouth about that person. I'll never talk to her again. I stopped texting her after that. I was like, yeah, I don't blame you. But going into your background, helping people, that's why what stood out to me most about you is you got to kind of away from the greed. Yeah, of course you're making some money doing what you're doing. But
Yep.
it's not as much as you would probably make on a commission basis as a realtor, I'm guessing. So, but you're doing it to help people learn that maybe they don't need the agent that just that puts a lockbox on the door and doesn't do anything, besides the paperwork, right?
Yeah, that's the struggle because it's like you said, you know, every organization has its bottom 10%. And it feels like, especially whatever it is in the agent world, I feel like the bottom 10% has the biggest megaphone.
Mm,
And they're the ones that people tend to remember and they paint with a very broad brush. Some of the best people I know, look, my wife is the single best human being I've ever met in this universe. And she's a real estate agent and she works so hard for her people. Another great friend of mine up in Detroit, Robert Neely, the guy gives thousands of dollars out of his pocket every year for school kids who can't afford school supplies. Like,
mm,
and these are real estate agents. A lot of people are like, no, no way, those are real estate agents. Yeah, they are. It's funny. In my industry, being in real estate, we've done an amazing job at running this, what I call it, a psychological propaganda operation against the American homeowner to teach them and to convince them, hey, Selling a home is very scary. It's very complicated. It's legally jeopardous. You're going to screw this up. You're going to screw up the pricing. Just default to giving it to a real estate agent. And when I actually started digging into that, I realized that's not the case. I mean, look, again, I didn't start life as a real estate agent. I started life as just this normal Detroit public school kid. I mean, I'm starting at the bottom of the barrel. If there's a bottom of the barrel, I'm digging underneath it, right? And all of a sudden, because of what I learned in business, because of what I learned in startups, negotiation, having empathy, putting yourself in the shoes of the other person on the other side of the table and figuring out what is it that they want in life, and am I truly, honestly, a good solution for them? And if I am, boy, I better fight like hell to make sure that they work with me because I'm going to get them the outcome better than anybody else. That's what made me great. I mean, Liz and I, we would have houses. Our list to sold price ratio was 102.3%, which is a fancy way of saying we got people above asking every time we sold, and almost always our homes were the result of a bidding war, and we were under contract the first weekend. Well, that doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly doesn't happen by just taking a real estate exam and then going out and thinking you're going to figure out the job. You have to come at it with some sort of a background, and I think that's why I did so well. And I think that's why I approached it so differently because I had this skill set from all those years in the boiler room of startups that I was able to bring to bear against a lot of other agents who, in everybody knows this, I'm not revealing any state secrets here. A lot of them do it as a hobby. A lot of
Hmm.
them, they're bored soccer moms who decide, I'd like to go tour houses with my friends, which, hey, God bless them, totally fine. Do that, but make sure that you're not then giving bad advice or doing kind of slimy things like what happened to your friend, that makes the rest of us look bad. And that was kind of my biggest problem with all of this was I really didn't being lumped into a group of people who all the ones that I've met, almost all of them were great people, but unfortunately they do have a reputation issue. And it's up to us to fix that.
One of the things that stood out, the difference maker with you that you said was having empathy, right? And I think there's a lot of agents out there that doesn't happen. It's just about the money. It's about that commission and getting and doing whatever it takes to get that commission. I've dealt with a lot of them in my career. I've done real estate for 18 years now, and I've come across great agents. Like your wife, I've come across bad agents that I had to work both sides of the deal just to keep it together because
Yeah.
they didn't know what the heck they were doing, and
Yeah.
they shouldn't be in that industry because you're dealing with um, the biggest investment somebody's making in their life, right? And
Right.
it's like, and they think it's so easy to do, but it's really not. And having that care, that empathy for people, that's how I've always been. Like, if I'm getting or working with somebody to get a house, like, I'm so picky with it because in my mind, it's about can they make money on the resale end when they go to turn this and sell it later on? It's thinking about their future. It's thinking about not just saying, "Wow, this thing's beautiful. You should buy it." Right? So like, and unfortunately, that's the sad part of it. Is a lot of the case that's it, and people get stuck. They get trapped. They lose money, and who's there to blame? The realtor that probably just sold that one thing to him and isn't in the business anymore because times have slowed down. It's just it's a crazy business that you can take a test, but I think there should be more qualifications into it too. But I love what you said about having empathy for the client and and actually respecting them and doing the right thing.
Yeah, Bill. I mean, I actually learned a really solid point on all of that, and it goes into like the consumer psychology of it all. People will believe pretty much 0% of what you tell them, but they believe almost 100% of what they tell themselves.
Hmm.
So by being able to walk a mile in their shoes, by being able to argue for their best outcome using language they would use, using things that are important, framing the discussion in a way that matters to them. Brandon Mulrennan was my mentor, my coach when I got into the space, and he taught me so much about that because he was like, "Listen, you are going to come into these people; they already don't trust you." They just know that they already think that you're self-interested because you are. Everybody's self-interested. Of course we are. Um, However, what you have to get across to people is that you're also capable of understanding how sometimes your self-interest and their self-interest, their best outcome, sometimes can intertwine. And that's how you make a great relationship.
Go into, the start, kind of that kickoff moment, the aha moment of why you started Foolproof FSBO.
Yeah. Dude, this is embarrassing. So, it really, this isn't something I love admitting, but I've told this story a couple times. It's almost like therapy when I talk about it. So, I've always been a very competitive person. I've always been very stubborn. I've loved going against the grain. Every time somebody told me I couldn't do something, buddy, you better believe I'm going to work until I'm dead to prove them wrong. And that's just, I don't know why I'm that way. It drives my wife crazy and it drives me crazy sometimes. It's just how I am. And so what I was obviously I do not like losing, and I was leaving my last. It was my last listing meeting last listing appointment I ever took. Is a very older couple, sweet as the day is long, on the verge of retiring, empty nesters. They're trying to downsize. And I went and spoke to these people, and I knew within 5 minutes that they weren't going to work with me. And I don't like that as it is, but that's okay. You don't win them all. But what really bothered me about this one was the reason they weren't going to work with me is because the agent before them bought the listing. And what I mean by bought the listing, it's what happens when an agent will come to a listing appointment and they'll tell a seller, yeah, I'll get you $500,000 for your $400,000 house because I
Mhm.
have 10,000 Instagram followers, or I have a drone that takes aerial photographs, or I do virtual, whatever. It's all BS. People don't
Yeah.
care about any of that stuff. They care about price. But when you're talking to really sweet, kind, older folks who want to believe what you're saying, because $100,000 to them is life changing at that age. So they want to believe the fantasy, they want to believe the fairy tale. Meanwhile, the house doesn't sell. These people have 6 more months of carrying cost. Homeboy has a billboard in their yard where he's collecting sign leads day in, day out. So he's making money off that house that doesn't sell. And these people now have a stigma on their home when their listing expires in 6 months and they have to go back on the market as the house that didn't sell. And people always wonder what's wrong with the house. So I mean, it's just a giant. It's malpractice as far as I'm concerned. It's so rude. It's so outright evil to do to a nice group of folks like that. But anyway, so I'm leaving there, and I know what happened. And on the way home, here's where it gets embarrassing for me. I had a thought that came into my head, and it basically said, I could have won that today if I was equally or more dishonest than the previous guy. I could
Mhm.
have won that listing today if I just bend a little bit and maybe I don't have to be so honest with folks. I could BS with the best of them. Maybe I could be one of those guys that sell ashes to the devil. And it really, I had this almost physical illness that I felt in my soul when I realized what I was saying. Because I'm the guy that wants to be the dad that his little girls look up to. I want to be the guy that, his wife looks at him and doesn't think, wow, I can't believe he took money from those people. Most of all, I want to look in the mirror, not hate who sees looking back at me, or the guys I lost in the Marines. I'm going to see them again one day, and they're going to have questions about how I live my life. God's going to have questions about the way I live my life. And I don't want, I've already got enough to answer for. I've already made enough mistakes in my life. I don't need to add to that. So that's when I said, you know what? I avoided temptation that one time. Maybe I could avoid it 100 times, but I would break. As a human being, all human beings eventually break, and I knew I would break. I didn't know when it would happen, and that's what I said. Forget it. That is the last one I take. I'm never going to put myself in that position again, and that's why I decided. I guess I have to figure out something to do with my life. So I slept on it for, it took a few weeks. And then I finally woke up one night and I couldn't sleep and I blasted all this out in one night where I'm just giving everything away. All like, 40 years of business experience, all this. I've been in the industry since 2014. I'm literally giving people the blueprint that I use to get multiple offers, sell in the first weekend. And I don't want a thing for it. I want nothing back other than just maybe somebody telling me that maybe I enabled them to send a kid to college. Maybe I enabled them to retire on time. I don't know what it is. But I just know I don't want to be responsible for me having to deny that temptation for the rest of my life because I would fail.
That's unbelievable, man. Because let's start. I want to dissect this a little bit too, just off of what you said, like having those thoughts, those negative thoughts of, maybe I should be that guy
Mhm.
that throws a number, a higher number that, and knowing that the house won't sell. There's so much of that out there. I've lost listings to that. I've lost people. I mean, there's one out there right now. I was actually talking to somebody that looked at the house. It was one of our builds, and the guy didn't list it with me because I said it was worth a lot less. Then they're listed 500,000 more than what I said.
Jeez.
And that realtor probably told him, "Oh yeah, you'll get this because of the view and this and that." It's listed like a brand new house. It's not a brand new house. It's an 8-year-old house.
Mm.
And like I was talking to somebody that called me because they looked at it and they're like, "What do you think that's really worth?" And I was like, "Be honest with you, it's worth this amount." And the guy that I was talking to, he said, "Yeah, I agree with you. That's kind of what I thought." And I was like, I'm not the only one that sees this. Clearly, customers are seeing it too, or people that are walking through it. But going back onto your point, though, that happens so much. And you know, you and I are a lot alike, because like I have a son, I have a daughter on the way, due in April, and I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best father I can be. I want to just be the best example, even to my employees and my team, and just um, not we. I want to continue to always do business the right way, and if it takes losing business because of that, because of having that integrity, I'm good with that. And I'm a believer in God as well, and I believe that it all comes back around no matter what.
Yeah.
You losing the listing that you were talking about, I'm sure has come back in tenfold. That's how God works as well. So, I love what you said there, man, and I commend you for it. And to start a business off of it just to help people kind of get away from that is awesome because I mean it's creative and you're the only one I've seen that's doing it, maybe because you're the most public with it, but it's definitely a good thing. And
I,
that's
I appreciate that.
that's coming from somebody in real estate too. So
Well, there's this, it's funny because people, and this happened when I came from the startup space. There was always people out there who felt like in order to be successful, somebody had to lose in a deal. Like you necessarily had to pull something over on somebody else to win. And it was just such a limited just scarcity mindset that people had where they're like, oh, in order for me to do well, I have to make sure this guy does less well. And that's not the case at all. In fact, the most successful people in this entire planet are the ones who made sure that whatever it is they were doing, other people got even more value out of it. Sure, maybe cumulatively they might have benefited, like Elon Musk. He's the richest guy in the world. But guess what he did? He made it so that millions and millions and millions of people out there no longer have to put gas in their cars or get oil changes, or they could get internet at broadband out in the middle of the country. As before, they had this old janky satellite HughesNet, that would get you maybe 1993 bandwidth speeds. So like by seeing what kind of good you could do in people's individual lives, I mean, I think that if we're going to be selfish about it and speak at a self-interested perspective, I might even be able to argue to folks who are on the fence about this kind of a philosophy to say it does you well in the end, and it might not be what monetary. I mean, I can tell you monetarily, there's absolutely no question. I've lost a lot of money by not taking listings anymore, a ton. My life, but also thank God as an investor. I'm not lacking. Like I obviously I'm not missing any meals. Liz and I have a great life. I've been blessed in so many different directions that there's so many ways you can enrich in your life that have nothing to do with the amount of money that I'm bringing every year. And it's helped me to step back from that in order to have that perspective. And one thing I will also say is I sure give real estate agents a hard time because I am one. So I feel like, I'm allowed to beat up on my brother, but nobody else better beat up on my brother. Well, it's kind of like it has to be said that real estate agents are serving a community and people. And if those people incentivize certain behaviors, those actions are going to be reflected in the real estate agent. So, and I'll give you an example. My wife, boy, she just got done helping somebody out that she really regretted. And it was because they were several times. I mean, she walked from the listing three times, and they kept trying to bring her back in. They were trying to not disclose things, significant problems with the
Mm.
property. Could you imagine what kind of person looks in the mirror and says, you know what? Yeah, there's this newlywed couple with a beautiful family. They're just getting started, but I'm going to dump this giant money pit on them that they're going to have to worry about for the next 30 years,
Mm.
just so I can make an extra $15,000. Are you kidding me? Or
Yeah.
you have buyers out there who found, we had another case. Lady found out, and now this lady had, I mean, she had ridiculous amounts of money. It was not a problem for her to pay for anything, but she found out that a house she was interested in, she made an offer, and then she found out that the lady was pregnant, and they had a job transfer out of state. So she knew that they were highly leverageable. So she withdrew her offer, let it sit for 60 days, came back and offered far less than her initial offer just because she knew that these people kind of had to take it. Um, who does that? So, like, again, I give real estate agents a hard time, but we as individuals, we as American homeowners, consumers, buyers, sellers, we have to take a hard look in the mirror ourselves as well. And if we're encouraging that kind of behavior, if we're encouraging another human being, another agent to misrepresent our home or to make bad faith offers, well, shame on us too.
Yeah.
That's another thing we got to fix.
Let's go into your business a little bit more too. Let's unpack it a little bit, like the process of it. Like,
Hmm.
what exactly are you doing to help the consumer? Then I have another question to kind of follow up with that, based on working with agents versus for sale by owners. Somebody goes to you, let's just go kind of the process. I call you up. How's it all work?
So the first thing we do, Bill, is we make sure that I can actually help them. Because so there's a very uncomfortable statistic out there, which happens to be 100% true, but there's a backstory to it. The statistic is that 90% of people who attempt to sell by owner fail. Okay. And
Yeah.
the 10% who do fail, quote unquote, who do succeed, quote unquote, succeed, they sell at about 11% less than their agent represented counterparts.
Mm.
So that is a very that I think helps people say, well, why in the heck would I ever try to sell on my own if I make more money, even netting out the real estate commissions by using a professional? And if that were the end of the story, I would agree with them 100%. Where the story falls apart is I imagine my daughter when she turned 16, if I just threw her the keys to my car and said, here, good luck, watch some YouTube videos, figure it out. That would be a very dangerous and reckless thing for me to do. But that's how people treat the transaction of what very well may be the biggest asset in their portfolio. They watch some YouTube videos, read a few blogs, and then they'll go try to sell on their own. Well, of course they're going to fail. Of course they're going to misprice. Of course they're going to get sued 3 years later when they didn't fill out the disclosure paperwork correctly. Yes, this is all very real. So what I do to help people is I say, listen, first let's stop, take a breath. Are you even a good personal candidate? And is your house a good asset to attempt a for sale by owner sale? Because there's some deal breakers here. Number one, if your home is subject to any kind of a legal dispute, let's call it a divorce, maybe it's in probate, or there's some sort of maybe a foreclosure, there's any kind of a judgment attached to your house, breaks. We don't do that. Now's not the time to try to figure this out on our own. This is where you need a professional agent to step in. Number two, if your work schedule is insane, or if the opportunity costs of you going to work are such that, like, if I have a cardiologist who makes $30,000 a day, I'm not going to tell him, hey, take a week off work, get your house ready in order to save $50,000 in commissions. It's financially backwards. Or if I have a single mom who has to get her kids to ballet and soccer, and also she works, and also this, that, and the other thing. No, there are times where it's okay to admit, listen, this is not right for me to go alone. Now, for those people, who have decided they can't do for sale by owner. I still have a solution. They contact me. I have a nationwide network of agents. I've already pre-negotiated their commissions down.
Mm.
So all they have to do is call me. I'll introduce them. They're still going to save tens of thousands of dollars by working with one of my in-network agents. But on the bright side, if they want to do this on their own, they could save even more. So we have them take this 2-minute quiz. It's going to tell them, hey, this is for you, this is not for you. And then based on your path A or B, we take you down. If you're path A and you're good for sale by owner, I teach you. We have it's called a blueprint course. It's a 9 video module course. I take them through how to price in a way that causes buyers to overpay, how to do great pre-sale hacks like a pre-listing inspection. A pre-listing inspection is beautiful because you get first bite at the apple when you figure out what is the other side going to see in this house when they do an inspection. How many of those things can I take off the table? It's basically like taking the ammunition out of the buyer agent's gun before they point it at you. Because as a buyer agent, one of their favorite tools is to take that phone book size inspection report and beat the seller over the head with it until they give them price reductions. And they say, this is bad, you got to fix this. So it's things like that. It's understanding how to conduct open houses in a way that guarantees there's a crowd in there at all times. There's people fighting in the street for parking spots. There's people brushing elbows. I can't tell you how many times I've done open houses like that where we'll get an offer that day. One time I walked out and there was a lady writing an offer on her steering wheel of her car. And I said, what are you doing? She goes, I heard 2 other people in there saying they're going to make an offer on this house. I want to get mine in first. It's not magic. It's just understanding consumer psychology. It's raising toddlers and seeing when one toddler has a toy, the other toddler immediately wants it. They're going to start fighting on it. And I'm sorry, we've never grown up. We're all still toddlers mentally in that respect. So
I love it, man. That you're creating a path for people, because when you think of for sale by owners, it is a big failure. You see a lot of them you see the signs are crappy. They
yeah,
throw some sign out front that they got from, Home Depot
they
or
take their own
whatever.
listing photos. Looks like a crime
Yeah,
scene.
yeah, and they don't even fit. Like, they do them all upright with their cell phone instead of turning it sideways, and
A
it's just
laundry hamper. It's a
yeah,
cat box over in the corner. Oh
yeah. I
Lord.
mean, but a lot of it goes back to too. A lot of for sale by owners get the stigma that the reason they don't want to have a realtor do it is because obviously, clearly, they want more money, but they're overpricing it too.
Yep.
And a lot of them are overpriced.
Yeah.
And if they would just price it right, they're still going to save money if they sell it themselves. They're not paying the 2.5, 3%, whatever is the going rate wherever you are, but 1%, whatever. And so it's educating them like you're talking about too. You said 90% fail. Is that what you said?
90. Yeah, 9 out of 10. And what's interesting about that, Bill, is in sales in the startup world, we did a lot of I never went to college, but I've spent 6 figures on coaching. It's embarrassing how much money I've spent on coaching. But one of the things I learned was one of the
I'm right
biggest
there with
predictors.
you. So
One of the biggest predictors of success in sales is having a high emotional intelligence score, so being that empathy, but also product familiarity is a solid number 2. And I can't think of a better subject matter expert on a home than somebody who's lived in it for 10 years. They've drank coffee on the back porch. They've watched fireworks from the front yard on 4th of July. They've had Thanksgiving dinners there. There's just nobody who's better at knowing that house, which floorboard creaks upstairs, which light switch controls which light. And that is so valuable because what I try to teach my students is you're not selling a product here anymore. You're selling a story. You have to talk about this in a way where it's a blank canvas and you're allowing somebody else to paint their life on it. And the better that you can do that, the more you can talk about what it's like to live there. That's something that I, as a real estate agent, would never be able to. I'll tell you, I'll put it this way. I would hate to compete with one of my students as it relates to selling their home. Because even myself, as a darn good agent, and I can't compete with somebody who lived in that house for 10 years and knows everything about it. I just can't. That's all there is to it. So yeah, that's homeowners don't realize how much horsepower they have in this game. They don't realize how much strength that they have. And again, my industry's just done a great job at making us feel disempowered that we don't know how to do this ourselves.
Do you think we're going in a direction where there's going to be less realtors involved? And I mean, I with AI and everything going on, I mean, I always think there's a place for a realtor in the high end world. Let's put it
Mhm.
that way. Bigger homes, a lot more to show, a lot more to know, a lot more to see. But in the other side of real estate too, do you see the agent kind of getting faded out a little bit just with technology the way it is? I mean, Zillow offering more options for sale by owners now. The big sales pitch for realtors was always the MLS. I don't really know if that's as important anymore. Obviously, as a realtor, we're always using it, but you can just go on Zillow and search I mean, I'm on Zillow too as a realtor. I go on Zillow
Yep.
or realtor.com or these major plays, to look at other areas in Florida or around the country. I mean, it's just there's so much access at our fingertips now to do you see realtors being an asset here in the future in some degree?
What's interesting is the real estate agents, at least in Florida, where I am, we're statutorily required. And
Mhm.
so, what every good, and I don't mean good as in ethical, but what every long-term minded business will do, if they can, is they will crony up to the government and get the government to build in statutes around why they're required it. Like in Florida, you have to have a license to cut hair. Like it's
Yeah,
crazy, but it's
yeah,
true. So what I look at is the history of gatekeepers as it when they confront technological advances. Gatekeepers always die. Real estate agents are gatekeepers. Now, the difference is they're statutorily required gatekeepers at this point. Does that change? Like, is it like the Uber model where, had Uber gone and asked the Department of Transportation for permission to start Uber, it would have never happened. But what they did is they just started Uber and people fell in love with it. And then by the time the government caught up to what they're doing and tried to shut them down, you had 50,000 ticked off voters calling their Congress, but were you nuts? I use Uber all the time. Don't you dare shut that. So that the taxi lobby, the gatekeepers, they eventually, I mean, they exist today, sure, but are they what they once were? Absolutely not. Because a better, cheaper, smarter, smoother service came around that replaced that. So I do believe for sure that there will come a day where real estate agents are a thing of the past, just like the milkman is a thing of the past. The Avon lady is a thing of the past. Why?
yeah.
Because we have the internet. We have like gatekeepers always go by the way. So I don't know when that'll happen. I do know that it'll take statutorial changes. So the government will have to get involved in the real estate lobby. Will have to lose a lot of their power and their influence. And I don't know if that will happen. Uh, but I suspect it will. There will come a time. Here's one thing I do know. Every time I thought gosh, that AI will never be able to do that. And then I get proven wrong. I stopped. I've just stopped. I've now kind of been I'm almost fatalistic about it. Like, dude, they're just going to take over everything. So,
Yeah.
you could be like that guy in The Simpsons and be like, I, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. So that's about where I am.
But yeah, with AI too, man. I'm like, there's no way it's gonna be able to, build a house and what we do with the concrete and everything.
Right.
And I don't know, man. One day it will. I mean, I know they can build a wood house, so it's like once robots become more and more, it's like you start
It's
thinking
nuts.
about the future though of real estate and me being an agent, I look at that and it's like obviously knowledge is power. And you talked about that too, being knowledgeable, having empathy, gaining trust. There's a lot of, so, you know, I don't think realtors will be completely washed out. I just think the bad will. I don't think there's a
Yeah.
place for the bad anymore
Right.
here in the next probably couple of years, actually, because there's so much knowledge out there. I believe it in the home building world too. I think people are starting to realize what good quality is and versus what's not because they have the resource at their fingertips to know who's good and who's not. I mean, there's always going to be price driven people. You can't get around that. And they're going to obviously, unfortunately, end up with the wrong person. And it's
Right.
continued on because they don't learn their lesson. I've had a few of those come across. But, I think with what you're doing too and kind of guiding in a different direction to give people the ability to do such a big thing themselves is huge. And I think it is kind of the future of the homeowner where they can kind of process, negotiate, sell, do all the things themselves and make more money and continue to do it down the road. With your service, you know, is there cost behind it so the listener knows if somebody's out there like, oh, I want to sell my own home. I'm gonna call Tim. Like, what does it cost?
Yep, absolutely. So the first thing I do is I tell people don't give me a dime. Like go I give when I say I give everything away, I'm not kidding. It's all on my YouTube. Go look at my YouTube. Go look at my Instagram, Facebook. Everything is out there. In fact, I just did this monstrous 4 hour long YouTube video, literally A to Z, how to sell your home. And so I just published that a few weeks ago, and people are absolutely loving it. Oh boy, what a pain! But um, you know, you don't have to pay me anything. Now, are you going to pay things? For sure. Number one, I demand that you either work with a real estate attorney or a title company. Don't you dare DIY your legal stuff. It is just not worth it. Don't you dare DIY your photos. I don't care how many Instagram followers you have. Get professional photos. The ROI on spending $300 to $500 on pro photos, it's immeasurable.
Yeah.
So don't dare try to do that. Now, there are folks out there who have a lot less time than they do money. For those folks, I do have a more structured course where they're like, "Hey Tim, I can't go watch 3,000 hours of YouTube content you put out there. I need this packaged up into a syllabus." So for that, I have something called my Foolproof FSBO Blueprint. It's 9 video modules. It's all your calculators, all your handouts. We meet weekly to discuss everything from pricing to marketing to closing. And that's $397. And it's 100% guaranteed that you'll. So if you buy the blueprint, you don't sell successfully by owner. Not only will I put you in touch again with an agent in my network who's going to sell your house at a discount. Once you sell with them as a housewarming gift, I'm going to send you a $397 check because I didn't live up to my end of the deal. I didn't help you sell your house. Like I said, I failed, and ultimately, I don't want a penny from you. So that goes back
Mhm.
to you. And I don't know, take your family out to dinner these days. I think
Yeah.
$400 might feed a family of three, maybe if we're
Yeah.
lucky. I don't know.
Gee. Oh man, this has been awesome. I want to wrap it up with this question that just popped in my head. Like, what would you recommend somebody do as far as their transaction? Do you recommend they check in, at least look in for sale by owner first before going with an agent? Because I feel like there's a fear with people, or just I don't even want to call it a fear. I think it's like just been so common practice that I got to find a realtor, right? Um, what would your advice be on that? Would it be, maybe check first, like if this is right for you, call Tim. If not, then go with the agent. What do you think?
So in this case, knowledge is power. As always, it's best to know the truth of where you are. And you have to talk to somebody who's not afraid to tell you an uncomfortable truth. And I'm one of those people. I would rather disappoint you with the truth than comfort you with a lie. That this is what this entire truth telling business is about. So go take the quiz is my first recommendation. If you go to foolprooffsbo.com/quiz, you'll find my 2 minute quiz. And
Mm.
then we're going to email you results and we'll tell you, hey, you're a great candidate for going for sale by owner. Here's some next steps to check out. Or we're going to say, look, because of either the house or because of you and in your personal position in life, this probably isn't a great idea for you to try to go on your own. But that said, we still have options for you. Either way, and I don't care if you already know you're working with an agent, if you know you're going to go for somebody, talk to us first because we're going to help give you some honest feedback. And Even if you already know you're going with the agent, if you use one of our in-network agents, you're going to still save a boatload. The second thing I would tell people to do, if they just want to kind of get a taste for what this looks like, I have a free ebook that I wrote, and it's our 7-day launch plan. It teaches you how to get your home on the market and start accepting offers in as little as 7 days. So if you go to foolprooffsbo.com/ebook, we'll get that emailed out to you. I would do those two first things initially, just to find out if there's anything there. And on my website, you can learn how to book a call with me. If there's things you don't want to put in email, maybe it's, I know sometimes selling a home is sensitive. Listen, I've heard it all. You can talk to me, and we'll get you squared away.
Love it, brother. I'm going to wrap up with this question because I do this one with everybody and I always get a great answer. What about you personally? You've built an amazing company, a brand that continues to grow each and every day. What lessons have you learned throughout your journey that we should all apply to our own business or lives to help us grow?
Wow. So the toughest thing for me has been to learn focus. I'm one of these shiny object guys where I see 10 things that I want to fix and I try to do them all at the same time. And what does that result in? Usually 10 failures. So I've learned to kind of try to just find and not find your passion. If everybody found their passion, I'd be on the beach right now renting out jet skis. I don't know. That doesn't sound like something to build a family off of. But when I say find your passion, find out what true happiness means. And it took me a very, very long time to figure out what it was that made me happy. I mean, I was well into my 40s before I realized, wow, I've been living my life like an idiot. I really need to turn things around. I measured success previously by, how much money I can make. I measured success by how big the house was. And nowadays I don't care. Like it's so weird to hear those words come out of my mouth, but I just don't care. I care about healthy children. I care about a fantastically happy wife that I still manage to let down on occasion, but hey, I'm a man. It's about, knowing what happens after this life, knowing what happens, that you're going to be accountable. You're going to have to explain yourself, and not in a judgmental way, but in a way that you're just coming clean with somebody who already knows everything about you, they've counted every hair on your head. And it's like, that's important to me now. And I wish I could kind of help. Gosh, if I could have talked to myself 15, 20 years ago, it would have been impossible. But if I could have, boy, I just feel like I'd be in an even better position now than I am. But life is beautiful for me.
Love it, man. I love it. I always get a great answer on that question, so I love asking that. And this has been awesome, Tim. Where can people find and connect with you?
Thank you, Bill. So Foolproof FSBO, which is Foolproof FSBO, it's an acronym for first sale by owner, if I didn't explain that before. Foolproof FSBO is my handle on all the socials. I'm big on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. For some reason, I'm even on TikTok. I don't know why, but I'm on there. And obviously LinkedIn. And then if the best thing to do is if you take that quiz, that's going to kind of give you your first step through the door, and you're going to figure out, hey, is this for me? Is this not for me? And then the whole universe opens up from there.
Awesome, brother. I appreciate your time today, man. This was awesome. Definitely gonna check back in with you in the near future here and have more conversation on this topic, and we'll see what the future holds for the real estate industry. And yeah, so gonna want you to be a returning guest for sure. This was good, man.
Oh gosh, Bill, it'd be an honor. It's such an honor to be here. I'm a big fan. I appreciate you and the audience putting up with me today. It's been great to get to know you. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. And everybody listening, take the time to like, share, comment. Obviously, share this one, goes a long way. Share with friends and family. 5-star reviews on iTunes, too. Go check out all past episodes on YouTube and subscribe. And we will see you guys on the next episode.